Okay, and without further ado, I will introduce Sam-er He-jah-zee, who's going to be talking about navigating the BLS API with R, a step-by-step guide. And please join me in welcoming Sam-er. Thank you.
Thank you all. My name is Sam-er He-jah-zee. I work as a financial data scientist at MD Anderson Cancer Center. So I'm actually based out of Texas. So I made the trip all the way here to Portland to present something that I've worked on with the organization. Thank you. So the BLS, known as Bureau of Labor Statistics, let's take a look at some of the data topics that they offer. So with this website, it offers all these statistics in the United States about like employment and unemployment, job openings and labor turnover, prices and inflation, and wages and earnings. So these tend to be pretty interesting topics, especially nowadays in today's like current economy and job market. A lot of us want to kind of have these statistics and data available for us to answer some of the most important business questions. So the data format that comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics tends to always be in a time series format and primarily in a monthly format. Sometimes it can be in a semi-annual format. So right here as an example, if you go and try to download the data manually from the website, this right here is the average unemployment rate. You're going to get the data in a time series format on a monthly basis of all the unemployment, the average unemployment rate for all U.S. city averages. So accessing the data tends to be broken into data sets, and each of those data sets is known as a series. Each series has a unique identifier so that you can know what data you're accessing. And that series ID is comprised of letters and numbers, with each digit and set of digits having a specific meaning. So we're going to look at an example at the moment. So here's an example of what a series ID looks like. So those first two digits represent the prefix of the series ID. So in this case, we are looking at the consumer price index data for all urban consumers. So this is just a very popular series that measures how prices have changed over time in certain categories. The U in this ID means that the data is not seasonally adjusted. Now, if there is an S instead of it, that means that the data is seasonally adjusted. The R means that the data is in a monthly format. The S just means that it's in a semi-annual format. So those are the two different formats. And then the 4 zeros, that represents the area code. In this case, when you see a 4 zeros, that means that we're just looking at the average US city. Now, of course, there are different metroplexes. There is actually one for the Portland, Seattle area as well. So there's a list of area codes that are eligible to be fit into this series ID. And then the last digits, these represent the item code. So in this particular example, this item code is for food and beverages. So there's a long list of different item codes you can look at, such as like medical care, and such as like food, beverages, and so many other item codes. So when you look at the full meaning, you're looking at the consumer price index for all urban consumers for food and beverages in the average US city, not seasonally adjusted and broken into a monthly format. There's a link here that shows you the list of popular series that you can go to the BLS, which tends to be the go-to for many statisticians. And then if you want to see the different structures of different series IDs along with their area codes and item codes, you can visit that link below that will give you the breakdown of all of that. So let's come to accessing the API. So there's two versions. There's version 1.0 and version 2.0. Version 1.0 is very limited, so we're just going to focus on version 2.0. All you need to do is just request an API key from the registration link above. And all you need to do is just provide your email address and the organization that you work for. You can even just put self in the organization and you'll automatically get an API key. And if you ever wanted to go through some of the API documentation, you have that link over there. So notes about the API, you can make up to 500 queries per day with up to 50 series IDs per query. And then one of the limitations is you can only request up to 20 years of data per query. And you must renew the API at least once every year. And there are some limitations to data access. So if you want to break it down by Metroplex, it will only give you some series are not available. Like it will be like the general series. And then it will give you the data in a month yes, month no format. So it will skip over a month when you try to get more specific. And sometimes it might not even give you the data at all. And to get answers to those questions, you can visit their Q&A in here. So the only package you really need for this is Hijjazi 2. which allows you to generate those HTTP requests. And you could use it in combination with tidyverse. So just looking at the code very quickly, you load in the libraries, you load in your API key, and then you use your API URL access point. And that is going to be the same access point that you use across all the different series. And then right here, this is where you make that HTTP request. So you pass in the URL into the request function. You use the post method, which typically you would use a get method to get the data, but for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're using a post method. And then in the request body JSON, you're going to just pass in the list of the series IDs. So remember, you can pass up to 50 series IDs in this. You'll have to indicate the start year and the end year, and then you'll pass in your registration key, which is your API key. And then lastly, you want to set the request headers to application/JSON, and that's always going to be the case for this API. Then you're going to get a response after you put in that request, and then you're going to parse that from the JSON file, parse that response, and then you'll get the data. The data is going to come in a list format. So you'll kind of have to like look at the list structure here. And as you can see in this first line, you're going to have to go through, there's going to be a list within a list to access it. And then you'll pipe it into a map function to put it as a tibble, bind the rows. And then right here, all I'm doing is I'm just mutating a new column just to indicate the series ID. You can do the same for multi-series. So in this case, since we have multiple series, so this would be the function that you would use to merge all of those series IDs together, binding the rows together. And then right here, I only did the arrange function to show you that you'll get the different series IDs that we first mentioned before, and you'll see it all in here. And this is all the consumer price index data for different categories. So I hope you walked away with something new about the Bureau of Labor Statistics API, and thank you so much for your time.
So our next speaker is LK Borland, talk about the decoding R needs. So with the lightning talk, we'll just take it away. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Borland. I work at the Oregon State University Library, and I'm just going to share my experience kind of decoding these R needs for our patrons by offering workshops through the university library. Okay. So many university students nowadays are expected to know R for their advanced courses or research, but access to formal teaching through the university can be kind of patchy. Even in those programs where they kind of expect a certain level of knowledge or skill upon graduation. And as R becomes more commonplace in academia, there's also faculty and staff who are maybe very well versed in other languages, but they might need some support with translation if their students and collaborators are more familiar with R. And then in addition, transfer and non-traditional students can also slip through the cracks as well with relation to learning R or just coding languages in general. So we identified a knowledge gap here that the library could help fill by bridging this gap with free and approachable R workshops. So how to develop a curriculum. The OSU library already has the framework and capacity to provide shorter, so this is a couple of hours, workshops on technical topics, things like MATLAB and LaTeX. And it's already a great resource for learners who are looking to get some more structured instruction at their university. But developing a curriculum for teaching R that addresses the needs of all disciplines, all roles on campus, and all levels of experience can be really, really challenging. So our first attempt at offering an R workshop was a 90-minute workshop. I offered a version in person and then a version on Zoom separately. Students were expected to have R in our studio already downloaded onto their machine. We provided instructions on this beforehand. And the general outline was to kind of discuss R in our studio as an open and accessible language, and then introduce R by working with our studio through an example data set together. We did things like downloading a zipped file from a website, connecting files to an RStudio project, and then analyzing data and performing really simple graphs with base R. Thank you. We quickly discovered some challenges with our first approach, and we employed more explicit efforts to kind of survey our attendees to learn about their challenges, which then helped us kind of loop back and inform our workshop design after that. So first, there's a really, really broad range of technical literacy with our attendees. For example, when downloading a zipped file from the internet, we sometimes ended up spending a fair amount of time kind of troubleshooting how to unzip a file. It's kind of somewhat parallel to that, right? Our attendees had a really broad range of experience that they were coming to the table with. Some patrons had significant familiarity with other coding languages like Python or MATLAB. This group likely felt that the course was too slow or simple to be useful. I received many requests for a more intermediate workshop. And responses to the level of difficulty were kind of all over the map. Many found it just right. Some said it was too simple. Some said it was too complex. Others had zero experience whatsoever with coding languages, and they kind of struggled with theories of syntax, data types, function calls, things like that. They probably felt really overwhelmed by a lot of new concepts all at once. And then a quick analysis of our attendees and some open-ended survey responses also showed that our audience is really broad, thank you, from civil engineering to kinesiology to fish and wildlife, and more discipline relevant real-life data set examples could be useful. And of course, I have to address all of this within a 90-minute workshop. So I learned from my first attempt to further tailor these workshops to kind of the broad range of needs that I identified. So now we're offering 2 different types of introductory workshops. I offer one with no experience whatsoever. We delve really deeply into the basics. These are things like what data types are. And then I also offer a some experience coding workshop. These are kind of really briefly goes through the basics on the surface level, but we go into more complex analyses. We talk about creating functions, graphing, and then I do an introduction to the tidyverse as well. So successes and next steps, about a quarter of our survey respondents had 0 departmental support with R in terms of training, and also had never taken a workshop at the OSU library before. So this is kind of suggesting that we're filling some sort of gap in support for R specifically. Of course, while overall satisfaction is acceptable, there's still, of course, plenty of room for improvement. Things like creating workshop material with different versions of dataset examples that participants can choose from that might be more relevant to their discipline. And some attendees were undergraduate students, but a significant number were graduate students, with the second most group being faculty members. So focusing on further advanced workshops could be useful for faculty and graduate students who don't really have the time or the budget to take an entire course on campus. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Yep. And our last lightning speakers, we have a pair of speakers for the R Ladies, and so talking about the R Ladies organization. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today among such a dynamic and diverse group of thinkers and creators. My name is Nellie Kachman, and this is Andy Hendrick, and we are thrilled to introduce to you an exciting chapter in our local data science community with the relaunch of PDX R Ladies Plus. Our Ladies Plus is a global organization dedicated to promoting gender diversity and inclusion in the R programming and data science communities. Our mission is simple but powerful: to create a welcoming space for individuals of underrepresented genders, including women, non-binary, transgender, and genderqueer folks, where they can network and thrive in the world of data. Our vision is to build a vibrant local network where everyone can grow their skills, share their experiences, and support each other regardless of where they are within their R journey. Whether you're a seasoned art user or a data science beginner, you'll find a place in our community here in Portland. Our Ladies Plus is for everyone who supports diversity in data science. So come as you are to code, learn, and grow with us.
All right, so what to expect? So with this relaunch, ideally, we will be designing events that are based on what you all are interested. So we're hoping to host both in-person and online events. We had our first happy hour last night. We had about 30 people come out, and it was so energizing, and it was really great to meet you all. In addition, we're also hoping to host some online events to accommodate people with different schedules and different needs. I am really excited about having some coding work groups where maybe we can really start looking at data sets and looking at each other's codes and answering questions together. And ideally, we'd like to do some experience sharing. I'd love to learn more about other people who are interested in R. I'd love to know how you all are using R, and ideally just get ideas and inspiration from each other. And so really our goal here is to just, build out a community of people who are passionate about data science and who are often underrepresented in this field. So we'd love for, you to come join us. If you're an ally, we'd love for you to come join us. And so this QR code will take you to the meetup page, which is the platform that we're going to be using. And so we'll be posting, events that we're hosting. So yeah, come join us. I'd love to see you all. If you're somebody that has ideas and would like to join our organizing group, we'd love to have you. We're freshly, relaunching and looking for energy and ideas. So yeah, come code with us. Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. We have time for a couple of questions. So if there's questions.
My question is for Sam-er regarding the BLS API. I was just curious if you've considered actually packaging that API interface, or if you've just sort of built it in kind of like a standalone template.
Yeah, hi, Evan. Thank you for the question. Yes, I did consider it, but there actually is, according to the API documentation, someone has developed a package for it. I think it might be outdated. I figured I would use this approach because this is what worked for me at work. And then also I wanted to use it as an opportunity to get better with working with all APIs in general. But yes, I do. Actually, I did think about it, and I think this should be the starting point for me to develop something like that. Thank you.
Hey, question for Borland. I was wondering if you have workshops for other languages like Python and things like Quarto as well.
That's so funny that you say that. I'm going to start teaching an Intro to Python workshop in August, I think. And also, if you'd like to take one, you're welcome to. It's open to the public, not just OSU students.